For weeks, Harry had a roller coaster of excitement imagining the legendary bodybuilder and actor waiting in the wings on The Late Show with Stephen Colbert. But oh no, this is not how he'd ever figured this was going to go. Stephen introduces Harry to Arnold, telling Harry how much he was dedicated to bodybuilding and that he loved all of Arnold's movies and his life story. Harry beamed in pride, shaking Arnold's massive hand firmly. But then he's the teasing one. Arnold said to Harry, "Show us your muscles," so Harry gave his best bodybuilding pose, sucking in his gut and flexing his biceps hard. But Arnold and Stephen just laughed hysterically. "Look at this little thing. He calls them the muscles," Arnold joked, cocking his arm. The lithe bunch of muscles on Harry's arm looked smaller than ever, much to the merriment of his audience. This was what made Harry feel his face flare up red, only this time not from embarrassment but from anger. However, that wasn't all. He then requested Harry to demonstrate some of his most famous scenes from Terminator and Predator. Harry rolled his eyes and read the lines with as much monotonous, robot line delivery Arnold impression as he could muster. And his weak build and high-pitched voice only served to further incur more insults from Arnold and Stephen Howell. "You call that an Austrian accent? You sound like a little girl," Arnold bellowed. Harry was on the verge of tears now. But he bit his tongue, not wanting to make more of a fool of himself on national television. The interview mercifully ended soon after, with Arnold laying what, on the surface, looked like a caring pat on the back but laying on enough force to knock the wind out of him. Harry staggered off the stage in humiliation and swore that he would get even with Arnold Schwarzenegger one day. He must have felt real shame, standing there, as he had been beaten by so many other highly respected swimmers from around the world. How dare he stand there, ridiculing Harry in front of millions of viewers and destroying his dream of impressing his hero. From that day on, Harry was committed to a savage he had only turned into Arnold, but at a much grander and mightier level than maybe even what Arnold reached at his very peak. Harry marinated himself in every Arnold movie, every book, every interview, learning what made him tick, his trademark moves, his one-liners, his essence. And 5 long years later, Harry put punishing hours in the gym and kept his relenting focus over his diet. His change was nothing short of amazing. From that once skinny child, Harry had somehow reached even his own expectations and had grown into a virtual Adonis. Every muscle was very chiseled with size and definition that would be envied by every bodybuilder. He even participated in bodybuilding competitions just to further prove his point and won at national and international levels. And now, Harry was ready to take his revenge against the same person who had really humiliated him all those years ago. He reached out to The Tonight Show starring Jimmy Fallon, challenging Arnold Schwarzenegger to an on-stage showdown. Harry is most pleased, and Arnold agrees, seemingly attaching little respect to what kind of danger this new rival might possess. The big face-off arrives that night. Harry walks powerfully onto the set, getting a shocked reaction from the live studio audience. It's almost like nobody can't believe he's the same skinny kid from 5 years ago. Out comes Arnold, looking every inch still the 70-year-old commanding figure that he is, but really looking his age and nowhere near the rippling, powerful bodybuilder he was decades ago. And the real test comes when Jimmy would get them to flex and pose side by side. Harry's muscles were more cut, defined, and massive than anyone had ever seen. Even Arnold had to emit a low whistle of approval, and yet that was not the best of it. Jimmy asked each to do his signature move. Arnold flung himself into the robot Terminator 2 impression, but it was a shadow without the menace he had put into it in his youth. Then Harry stepped up, launched into a near-flawless recreation of the infamous gym scene from Pumping Iron. But it put so fiercely and with such precision of movement that the crowd jumped to its feet in an explosion of cheers. Harry was a much better improved version of his idol in both aspects of the physique and ability to entertain. Arnold was clearly much impressed with a bit of confusion too when he shook Harry's hand and gave him kudos for a great transformation and entertaining skills. "You've got me beat, I have to admit it." And now the master becomes the pupil, said he, to much applause. Harry just smiled. Revenge really was his at last. He made the whole world, and personally, Arnold Schwarzenegger, understand that there was no person who could put shame on or outstrip Harry and go unpunished. It had been his hard work and dedication that had pushed Harry to finally get the greatest honor of them all, to become the greatest bodybuilder and showman that ever lived. The absolute highlight, however, was on The Tonight Show, meeting up with Destiny, something he would treasure the rest of his living career.